Hello, it's me. I was wondering if after all these vids you like to see the behind the scenes that I'm gonna show you now. Welcome to the behind the scenes video for the original traps of season 6. In this video you will see the process for each video and a special look at one of the traps that didn't make it on the list. As you all know, this season was a bit different, with all 7 traps connected to one character. So I'm pretty excited to share with you this amazing process and all the pieces that came together to form the story of Nathan Ragazzi. Let's begin with the opening trap for season 6, the funeral. I had many ideas written down for a trap involving wax and another involving several caskets. I don't remember exactly, but I think I got the inspiration from the movie Phantasm, where the kid is running through the casket room and he hides in one. At first the story was gonna be based around religion, with a religious fanatic person who years ago, before the events, captured a small kid to sacrifice as a religious offering. I had the idea of using wax for a trap for a while, so it made perfect sense to combine it with the casket and the events taking place in a funeral home, where you normally would find the items required. I made around 30 chairs for the set. I love the way this set turned out, especially the red carpet. It's very different from the usual dirty, abandoned building, and if you pay attention to the dialogues, you'll notice the building was in business when the trap took place. So I guess it took place during the weekend, when Ted Galloway was at home drinking and reading his favorite book. Before I decided to use the drills as the eye impalement, I had the idea of using lasers which would burn his eyes instead. But of course that doesn't fit quite well with the rest of the trap, so I went with the drills instead. I was a little scared when I started this trap because it was the first to be done after I completed season 5. So I didn't know if I was gonna be a little rusty making it, but I think I started building the set right after I finished Meat Grinder, and I didn't start shooting until the beginning of the next year. I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to make the casket look as realistic as possible, but I took my time building it, and at the end I loved how it looked. But it was a little creepy too. I think it took me like 3 days to finish it. I also made a second casket for the close-ups of Eugene when the casket was closed. So for this one I left one of the sides open in order to have the close-ups inside the casket. So in the video, whenever you see Eugene in the dark and his legs moving, that's the second casket being used. For me it's very important where Billy will be each time he makes an appearance or an entrance. So for this trap I think the placement was perfect. It's very symbolic with the setting and Eugene is able to see him. Sometimes I don't know what the characters are gonna wear, so I play around in the computer for a little bit. Now for the fun part of the game. I grabbed this old electric stove and used it to melt the wax for the trap. I bought a few candles and also grabbed some from my house. Then kept the stove on as I was shooting, and little by little I dripped it on Eugene's body. Then I stopped the camera and filled the casket. It was a little tricky because the wax turns white too quickly, so you need to be very fast. At the end Eugene was all covered in wax, so till this day he's still trapped in the casket. Overall this to me is a very successful original trap, and for sure one of my top favorite ones. Sometimes I'm in the middle of almost completing the story and concept for a trap, and at the end it doesn't make it on the list because either I'm not happy with the concept or I have trouble closing the circle on the story and trap. I'm surrounded by nephews and nieces, so from time to time they're in the room with me being annoying. Just kidding. I love them all. In this case I went as far as building the set and the trap device, but something you have to know about me is that I'm very perfectionist. At least 99% of the time So I decided to put this trap on hold because I wasn't completely satisfied with some of the things, and I was having trouble deciding the final idea for the story and parts of the trap. I'm not gonna tell you anything about this trap because I might release it someday. I kept the trap device because it was almost complete and it took me a while to build it. The only thing I can tell you is that this story was gonna be surrounded with a topic very personal to me, which is animal cruelty. And I wanted this trap to be the bloodiest, most painful trap I have ever made. Also, just so you know, I also dreamt this trap a long time ago, and it's one of my very first trap ideas. As you can imagine, it's a very special one to me. So that's why it needs to be perfect before I show it to you. This is one of my newest trap ideas, also the one who replaced the unreleased trap. I went through a few name options, but once I had Skywalk on the list, I knew it had to be that one. I like when traps have a one-word title, a title that sounds interesting and unique. So as usual, I went to Lowe's and bought a few sheets of glass, which is actually plastic. I used two different sheets, the main one for the walk and a texture one which I broke into smaller pieces for the bottom of the trap. I knew what I wanted for this trap, so the process of writing the concept was a little bit easier than some of the other ones. The only thing I wish I changed is the weights, simply because I feel like I should have added chains to pull the weights up instead of just moving up like a screw or something. Usually the sets expand to the sides for the traps I do, but with this one the set expands upwards with the 2-story setting, which brings to mind the Hear No Evil trap from Saw 3D. I love stairs, so every time I get a chance to include them in a set, I do it. If I go to an open house, one of the first things I will look for is the stairs. I bought 2 new lights for my videos, and this is the first time I use one of them. They were very handy this season. They bring more light to the set, and if I don't need too much light, I just cover parts of them. It's a lot better than using Christmas lights all around. This is also another one of my favorite traps I've done. I know I will say that a lot for almost every trap, but they're all really very special in their own way. There's also some that are at the bottom of the list too, so maybe one day I'll make a list of my best to worst traps and maybe I'll share it with you. There was no way I was gonna be able to break the glass where Arson walks and get a good shot, so I didn't glue the glass to the cardboard in order to take it out when the moment came to do the shots of Arson's fall. So I saved some of the broken glass I used for the floor and dropped it from the top. It looked great on camera and I loved the final result. Then I dropped Arson a few times until he landed in a good position for the shot. I think it took me about 3 drops until he landed the way you see him in the video. This season was truly one of the most fun to do because I got to do many sets for every scene in all videos, especially the sets outside of the traps. It's a great way to let my imagination grow and expand the ideas for future videos. Of course, a lot of the items in this season are original items from previous seasons. For example, the computers, which I made in season 4. Do you guys remember for which video in season 4 I made these for? I made the Billy cage for the See No Evil trap in Saw 3D. I think I showed this in the behind the scenes video for season 5, so you guys can go see it in there. And of course I couldn't let the cage just sit in storage, so this was a great way to use it. Since I started writing season 6, I had in mind the idea of bringing back 2 of my previous traps and maybe show a little bit of background to it. So I had a few options written down and finally decided on the puppet trap. I wish I had made more scenes including Julian, but there wasn't enough time. My next target to bring back was the crucifix trap, so maybe someday. Now this one, Chambers of Death, the one I was really looking forward to doing this season. Also another one of my senior traps. All I can say is I love this one. When I first came out with this trap, the original players were gonna be an old couple, and each one of them was gonna have a bomb strapped to their body. And once the loser got pulled inside the chamber by the other, the bomb was gonna go off, killing the player inside the chamber. Then I replaced this story with people pretending to be homeless and just to get some money. I did this because I've seen it and I didn't develop the old couple idea any further. This is one of my favorite sets from this season. The idea of the train station and the design of the scene was inspired by one of my favorite mysterious mystery games ever, called Syberia. And if you haven't played this game, I highly recommend you do. The chambers had to be very unique, so for a while I spent my time looking at pictures of old rusty turquoise color metal, which I think it looks great on top of highly designed architectural buildings, so I went with that color idea and they turned out great. They were supposed to look more blue than green, but I decided to just keep them that way. And the inspiration for the compressed salt acid came from watching The Mummy many times over the years. If you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. So by combining arcs, large windows with lights and old turquoise metal, the JLGRproductions set design formula comes into place once again and makes up a great set. At first I wanted a few weapons laid on the floor for each player in order to attack the other and make the game easier, but I thought that would resemble the mausoleum trap a lot, so instead I went with the flying saws. The burned body is just clay, covered with pieces of tissue paper dripped in fake blood. Then I spread more blood on the body like a turkey on Thanksgiving, and the result looked great, especially on the crime scene photos. This was the last time I used a booby trap for the investigative team because there's only so many times they will fall for it, and the whole idea of the booby traps is to make a point that the rules need to be followed or else. So by this particular point the officers had failed to follow the rules 2 times, so this served as a last warning apart from the main trap. Burling trap is one of those traps that feels like it doesn't belong, and sometimes it even feels like I didn't do it or haven't done it yet. The reason for this is the idea being so new and recent before I made it into reality. This trap started from another trap idea I came up since 2013, but then I changed a lot of things, so it ended up being a completely new project. I put together the main concept in April of 2014. So at this moment season 6 was already out. When you first look at this trap it feels like there's a lot going on, but in reality it's quite simple. Sometimes I like to have things that resemble medieval things, so for this trap the spiked blade metal logs were the medieval flashback. I went through a few ideas before I finished the final plan of the trap. Some of this stuff included hooks on Jalen's body, which would stretch his skin and mouth more and more every time Jax played his part. Also, the logs were gonna have different types of sharp objects, and some none at all. And also, I was gonna have small steam blowers moving around on top of Jalen's body, burning him, which was later replaced by only one big one at the end. Oh yeah, and some people have trouble understanding what was going on at the end with Jalen's death. When the game was lost, a large steam blower lowered from the ceiling, stopping right on Jalen's upper torso. So he got burned by the hot steam blower, but he died fast because he wasn't able to breathe. I would never get a tattoo on my body, but I like how they look on other people. So in season 5, I made Jack from the knife chair have a lot of tattoos, and in this season it was Jalen's turn to be covered in tattoos. It gives the character a more unique look. In the end of the video, you guys got to see the first glimpse at Nathan Ragazzi, but do you guys notice something different? I have a big secret to reveal. When I first started creating Nathan's clay character, I made about 4 different heads to choose from. Some ended up as background people, and I made the decision to use one in particular, which I used for the hospital hallway scene. It was the head which I later decided to use for Levi, because I wasn't completely satisfied with the look. So I made a more unique head, which is the one I used as the Nathan Ragazzi you all saw. So yeah, at first Levi's head was the original Nathan. There's actually a mistake in the Angel Fall Trap video, where a picture of Levi is shown wearing the clothes Nathan wore when he met John, which I didn't realize until I finished the video, and it was too late to change it. Now this was the first John appearance in the Nathan Ragazzi story. Of course I used the same head from the knife chair. When I finished building this head, I was pretty happy with the result. Over the years I've been in hospitals a lot with a family member, so I picked up a few details from the rooms. In case you're wondering, this scene is supposed to take place during John's stay at the hospital in Saw 1, when Dr. Gordon is talking to the nurses and Zap walks in. Then we move to the introduction of Jacob Wofford. In a sense, John and Jacob represent a big part of Nathan's life, as he saw them both as some sort of father figure. There's a lot more to Nathan's story, so if I ever continue making these videos, my plan is to make Season 7 a continuation of this story and scratch the bathroom trap out, and then make Season 8 a completely new story, but with all original traps. I'm not doing any more traps from the films because almost all my videos have copyright claims, so there's no point. There's a little bit of me and Nathan Ragazzi, so I wanted to make his personality and life a bit inspired by mine. For example, the artistic side of him. Some of the artwork you see in Nathan's house are recreations of some of my actual artwork I did years ago. I wanted the trap set to have lots of ventilation fans. It reminded me a lot of the Hatchet trap from the Air Fan Trap trilogy. And I always had the idea of the trap taking place in some sort of abandoned underground room related to mining. So I had the plan to shoot an outdoor scene showing the secret entrance on the ground in the middle of a forest during autumn season. I finished designing the main concept for the trap on January 13 of 2015, then changed some things around, like Nathan's hands being chained to the pillars. The first plan included arrows being shot from the ceiling to Nathan, and the goal of the game was for Nathan to control the arrow's direction with a device in front of him before the timer ran out. Before I made any sets for this video, I took 2 weeks to make this particular machine. It's a recreation of an actual big potting machine from my job. I asked my boss if I could take pictures of it, and then I made a much smaller version for my videos. Then once I finished shooting, I took the model to work, and today it sits next to the actual machine. I had plans for the finale to take place in this same set, but as you know, things changed. But we can talk more about that once we get to the Angel Fall Trap. I had a lot of fun making this video, and today is my favorite from Season 6. It's also the start of what I call the Nathan Ragazzi trilogy, which includes Disembowelment Trap, Blood Pool, and Angel Fall. Making a clean set, it's a bit challenging because almost all saw traps take place in dirty abandoned buildings and rooms. So when it comes to a courtroom set, the attention to detail needs to be a little stronger. This is another of my favorite sets from this season. It gives me a relief when I'm shooting a scene like this because it's an escape from the usual. Also, I think the shots with the judge look great, so it was very fun to shoot this scene. This is one of the longest dialogues I've written for one scene. As I was writing, I thought maybe I should make this scene a little shorter, but I didn't really hold myself back on continuing writing the lines for the characters. Most of this was written at my job during lunch in my car. I imagine the scene in my head and then I just write the dialogue. Sometimes it's hard to know what to write, but I love these types of moments where all the images come into my head and I am completely focused on the scenario and dialogue. During the process of making this video, I was watching a very popular Mexican soap opera called Cuna De Lobos from 1986. It is considered Mexico's best telenovela ever, and it involves a lot of killings and mystery, so of course I liked it. And this was my third time watching it, so the walls on Ross's house are replicas of the walls from the bedroom of Catalina Creel, the villain of the telenovela. I also painted the walls like this as a tribute to her malevolent ways. The character of Ross was not inspired by her, but in a way there's some similarities between the two. The blood pool trap idea has been in my papers for a while, and I almost used it for the finale of season 5, but I thought the timing wasn't right, so when I started writing season 6, this was set to be the finale of the season. But I felt like I needed to go deeper into Nathan's story, so instead of having 6 parts to the story, I added the Angel Fall trap. And Blood Pool didn't get to be the finale, but in a way it is because it's the final test for the police department characters. In the original design for this trap, I was gonna have 4 slides on each corner and 4 victims chained from their feet facing down the slide. Then they would have to play the game, and whoever lost was gonna be dropped down the slide and be pierced by sharp spikes at the end, eventually filling the pool with blood. So I did keep the slide idea but changed the torture methods for the other 3 and added the same objective for all 4, of stopping the spinning wire hoop. There is a clue during Jigsaw's speech where he says, "A square can only exist with all 4 of its corners." This is meant to imply that if all 4 players grab the spinning hoop at the same time, the pressure will be greater and it will be much faster for the selected player to overpower the device and complete his part of the game. But something I didn't think about was to show all 4 hoops spinning at the same time, every time the spindle stopped. But yeah, that's the way all 4 could have survived. It's you, for you. Look at my barril. I'm so fat. Oh my god. Yeah, get in here. Sorry, I had to charge it. Okay. Like I said before, almost all trap videos from the films are getting copyright claims, so I thought there was no point on me wasting my time making a huge set for the public trap from Saw 7. But I still wanted to please some of you who were asking for it, so I found a way to combine it with the story and make perfect sense. And honestly, not to brag or anything, but my idea is much better than this stupid love triangle between 2 idiots and this lot. That was another big turnoff for me doing the real trap, because the writers have this great new concept for a trap, taking place during the day and with lots of people watching. and they go for a cheap love story instead of making a big statement for the spectators, which is what I tried to do with the blood pool trap. Anyway, I shot the entire trap in my room, and once I finished, I was waiting for a sunny day to shoot the outdoor part of the video, but it was raining the whole week, and when I finally got to a decent day, I took advantage and shot the scenes right after work. I had the plan to make background buildings and make a much bigger set, but that would have pushed the release date even further, and I didn't want that to happen. At the end, I think it was good enough, but I would like to do another public trap if I continue making videos in the future. For the opening scene for the final video, I wanted to go back to the beginning, so the scene opens with Jacob Wofford's funeral, which takes place at the Galloway funeral home. I don't know why, but I find the mix of religion and evil stuff very fascinating. For example, one of my favorite movies of all time is Angels and Demons. For those of you who don't know, this is the sequel to the Da Vinci Code. I highly recommend you watch both of them. This year I found out the third installment is called Inferno, and it's coming out in October, so I am very excited to see it. So like I said before, one of the original traps I want to do a backstory for is the crucifix trap, so hopefully I can do it someday. When I finished the blood pool, I only had Roman as a survivor, but I knew a lot of you were complaining about me killing off everybody and not having enough survivors, so I decided to have 2 survivors. Some of you still can't figure out who the other surviving officer is, but think about it. Livingston got ripped in half, Ross got a saw through his head, and Carson was supposed to be decapitated, but the blade only cut his shoulder. So I think the answer is pretty obvious. When I make a set for a particular character, I think about their personality and their level of money to figure out the design. So in this case, for Levi's apartment, he comes from money because of his dad, so I always try to match the room with the character. Nathan works for the Open Wings Cancer Center, but he's also an artist, so he has a respectable income. In this scene where John is explaining the game to Nathan, it might seem like Nathan is a full accomplice of Jigsaw, but actually Jigsaw is doing this to repair his injustice towards Nathan, because he tested him without knowing his innocence, so he's trying to make things right for Nathan again, at least on the side of Jacob Wofford's murder. But on the side of the corrupt police department, Jigsaw made the game to prevent more injustice towards the citizens. Like I said before, at first I wanted Levi's test to take place in the disembowelment room. Also, I was thinking of having a different version of Nathan's trap, but worse. The idea was to have the suction machine reversed and placed tightly on Levi's back. Then, if he failed the game, the pressure will build up to the max and blow away Levi's intestines and organs. And I was just gonna call it Disembowelment Trap 2 or version 2. But I changed my mind and went with the angel design and different location. Since this could be my last video, I wanted to go back to the beginning, so I found a way to connect Nathan's story with the Airfan Trap trilogy. I've had this set in my garage since I finished Airfan Trap, so when I brought it to my room it was very dusty and moldy, so I had to gently clean it up and remove the objects. Then I threw the box away and made a brand new set with new cardboard, and then just glued all the stuff back in place. I went through a few different versions of the trap, mostly the torture process, but I knew from the beginning I wanted the wings and the blade fan on top, which of course gives Jigsaw the idea to use it again for the air fan trap. In case you're wondering about the title of the trap, let me give you a little explanation. Before I released the trap, I said on my Facebook page that the real name was hidden behind Angel Fall Trap. And of course that gives AFT, which could also be used for Airfan Trap, but the reason it's called Angel Fall Trap, it's because Nathan got caught at the end. So in a sense, Nathan has fallen, and he finds himself exposed, and I wanted to represent that in the title. The fall part at least. And the wings represent the wings of an angel, because The employees of the cancer center were referred to as angels, and Jacob also called Nathan an angel, and he truly believed Levi could be an angel as well. But after what Levi did, Nathan now knows Levi is no angel, so he created the concept of the game to represent Levi's wings being ripped off because he is not worthy of them. When I first shot this embalmment trap, I had the plan to keep Nathan dead, but I wrote the living ending just in case I changed my mind, and I did because I knew I was gonna regret it later if I had killed off Nathan. So the death part of the video was just a vision Nathan had for a split second as he thought he was gonna die for sure, before John came and cut down the power to the machine. I wanted the wings to look very unique, so I drew the design on paper and then drew the real size on cardboard. After that, I measured all the pieces and glued them together, lining them up with the drawing. I did the same process for both and then just flipped one of them around. I wasn't completely satisfied with the paint job, but I think they looked great anyway. So I guess this is it for now. Overall, I had a lot of fun making this season and I'm truly happy with the result and the new concept of having the same story for all the videos. Some of you have asked me over the years to make a full movie. Well, this was sort of the plan, but a movie divided into 7 parts. Either way, I am working on editing all 7 videos right now in the correct order of events, and I'm just gonna call it Saw 8. And once I'm done, I will upload it somewhere so you guys can see it. I want to take this moment to give you a big thank you for supporting what I do. I hope you liked season 6 as much as I did, and thank you for still being with me these past years. I know I'm not a big uploader, but these types of videos do really take a long time to finish, especially original ones. Sometimes I just don't feel like doing anything, and sometimes I'm at my fullest energy. I wish I was getting paid for these. That would make my enthusiasm grow even bigger, cause I do spend a lot of time and money to make them. But I have a few plans, so hopefully things turn out for the best. Anyway, this is the end for now. I hope all of you have a great year, and remember this, always do what you like because that's the only way you'll be truly happy. Take care, everybody. Until next time.